and welcome to this exciting new episode of Satyology Debunking Mythology. Many of you were asking me a question about Vikramaditya, and Vikramaditya was also called Chandragupta II by the Western scholars. And we have an amazing researcher, a great friend, and a scholar, Sri Vedveer Arya, talking about historical chronology from Mahabharata times to Vikramaditya. Namaskar, Vedveer ji. Welcome to the show.
Namaste, Aditya ji.
So, just give me a little bit clarification. When you say Mahabharata time, you're talking about birth of Parikshit or the passing away of Parikshit? Which time you're picking up?
In Puranas, the date of Mahabharata war and the same year in which Yudhishthira was coronated in Hastinapura and the birth of Parikshit. These three are linked to only one particular year. That's why generally even Puranas talk about birth of Parikshit. It means the year in which Yudhishthira became king of Hastinapura after Mahabharata war. So that way three events are almost at the same time.
Right. So 36 years he rules after that, and then Parikshit passes away. Yes. And so we are talking about the birth of Parikshit.
No, not 36 years. After 36 years, Sri Krishna passes away. Then Yudhishthira hands over the reins to Parikshit, and then they went on pilgrimage or even to Kailasha.
Yeah, Krishna is passing away, and Parikshit getting coronated is also very close because Yudhishthira immediately leaves.
Yes.
Immediately leaves. Yes.
The 36th year is we can say the end of one full generation of Mahabharata.
And many stories about Vikramaditya in terms of Singhasan Battisi, the 32-step Singhasan, are those all real stories or history, or it is a little bit embellishment on that?
No, there are some Sanskrit text is there regarding the Vikramaditya. We must understand this, whether these stories are historical or fictional. But what I see that these stories have been taken, even few stories are related to the Vikramaditya Ujjain, but many stories goes back to the Brihat Katha era, because the Vikramaditya title is even older than the Mahabharata era.
Correct.
Because in many texts, even that Bindusara's timeline, Vasubandhu, he wrote a text called Vasavadatta.
Yes, Vasavadatta.
Subandhu, not Vasubandhu. Vasavadatta. In that text also is referring to Vikramaditya, and he was there in the court of Bindusara during Mauryan period. So that time this Ujjain Vikramaditya never existed. Even the Vatsa kingdom, the near Kaushambi, those Vatsa kings also had the title of Vikramaditya. And there are many stories of Vikramaditya in Brihat Katha also. Actually, Brihat Katha was written even just a few hundred years, or at least 700, 800 years after Mahabharata war. Gunadhya wrote this Brihat Katha. He is giving the details of the Vidyadhara kings and the story of the Vikramaditya. So many stories have been clubbed into that Simhasan Battisi in that story. But later what happened, the stories got mythologized much further.
Right.
Yes.
So we can get started with Virji.
Yes. So in the Satyology, your show, we have discussed about the dating of Mahabharata war when we have started our discussions. Then in the last session, I have given the dating of Buddha. So Mahabharata war took place in 3162 BCE, and Buddha attained Nirvana around 1864 BC. There were almost 1300 years gap between Mahabharata war to Buddha Nirvana. So why this is important? Because these two dates become the sheet anchor for the chronology. So we need to always follow the sheet anchors for arriving the chronology. So these are the exact dates. The 25th October, that is the Kartika Amavasya, on which Mahabharata war just began on the day. Then the 5th April 1864 BCE, this was the Kartika Vaishakha Purnima. On that date, Buddha attained Nirvana. So he was born 1944 BC. So we can he lived for 80 years. In Puranas, the chronology of Magadha Empire has been given very accurately. Even the regnal period of each dynasty has been given. Yes, there are some minor errors that we will find out how to reconcile those minor errors in the probably in various versions. So before going to there, what we should do, we should first reconcile the regnal period of various dynasties given in Puranas. Almost all Puranas, though some Puranas give only few 16 kings of Brihadrata dynasty and they get some 700, 800 years. But actually when you reconcile the all other Puranas, the Brihadrata dynasty reigned for almost 1,000 years, probably 1 or 2 years plus minus, but they reigned for 1,000 years. So what we have to do, we have to add minus the 1,000 years, 3162 to 2162 BCE. This was the period on which Brihadratha's reign. Brihadratha dynasty is very ancient dynasty, and this dynasty was founded by the one king called Brihadratha during the Rigvedic period itself. He was the king of Anga Janapada. Then the dynasty during the Mahabharata period, Jarasandha. Jarasandha was killed by Bhima during the Rajasuya Yajna. Then his son took over the reins of Magadha, but that he was died in Mahabharata war. So the Jarasandha's grandson became the king in 3162 BC. This is how Brihadratha dynasty's history starts from Mahabharata. Then Pradyota dynasty, they took the reins from Brihadratha dynasty and reigned for 138 years. Thereafter, Shishunaga dynasty. This was the most weak dynasty of Magadha, though they reigned up to 360 years as given in Puranas. There are many events have been, took place in this period that we will discuss when we reconcile the chronology with the Buddhist chronology. But one interesting fact I want to highlight here: a Shishunaga king, probably second or third Shishunaga king, he founded this. He made the Pataliputra as capital of Magadha instead of Rajagriha. This fact has been mentioned in Yuga Purana. That Yuga Purana is part of the Vriddha Garga's Jyotisha. So there is a text Yuga Purana. You can search in internet. You will get the copy of that Yuga Purana. In that Purana, it is mentioned that a king of Shishunaga, he made Pataliputra as a capital of Magadha Empire. But generally, historians simply explain it or interpret it that he founded the Pataliputra. Pataliputra city, a village existed much prior to the Shishunagas. But Shishunaga, the Pataliputra became the capital of Magadha only during the Shishunagas dynasty. Before that, only Rajagriha was the capital. Then it comes to the Nanda dynasty after Shishunaga. So if we add on this number of years, 1,000 years, 138 and 360, together 1498, almost 1500 years is the timeline. So we can say that the Mahapadmananda, the founder of Nanda dynasty, he ascended the throne after 1500 years after Mahabharata war. So this is how, but the problem is whether they reigned for fully 100 years, less or more, it's we can reconcile, but based on the Buddhist chronology, what I did, I have fixed the timeline of the Mauryas, because Maurya Ashoka, he became the king of Magadha in 218th year from the epoch of Theravada Buddhism. So Theravada Buddhism time is almost 100 years after Buddha Nirvana. We have to add 100 years, 1864 plus, we have to come backwards. So minus 100 years, 1765 BC. From 7565 BC, we have to calculate 218 years. So that comes around 1420, 1429 is the date of Ashoka. So based on that, I have fixed the date of Chandragupta Maurya 1596. So the timeline, the number of years for Nanda dynasty is only 64 plus another 4, 68 years. Probably Mahapadmananda was almost conquering the entire uh, India from, I think, from north to up to Ashmaka Janapada. He almost subjugated all kings, and he actually annexed the kingdoms to Magadha Empire. So that's why Mahapadmananda was called as a Parashurama, because he ended the rule of various dynasties. So then Maurya dynasty reigned for 137 years. So this up to 1459 BC. Thereafter, Shunga dynasty, the Pushyamitra Shunga, he was the great king of Shunga dynasty. He founded the rule of Shunga dynasty in 1459 BC. During the reign of Pushyamitra Shunga, Patanjali wrote Mahabhashya. This is how this 112 years reign. Then it comes the rule of Kanva dynasty. Now, there is a decline of Magadha empire after Kanva dynasty. Yes, there were Shatavahanas succeeded, but in between there were the Kushanas, the Kushans from Bahlika and Gandhara, starting from that area. They ruled up to Magadha because numerous inscriptions have been found, and even the coins. And there is an inscription in Shravasti near to Varanasi, and the Shaka Kshatrapas, he appointed governors, Shaka Kshatrapas as governors of his vast empire. That's how the Kushanas reigned almost 1025, 1030 years, 130 years around, 1125 BC to 1000 BC. Thereafter, some Naga kings related to Chandra dynasty of Bengal, the East Bengal. From there, this Naga kings acquired the entire North India and became the kings of North India. So this Chandra dynasty. Thereafter, Shaka Murundas reigned for some 40-50 years. During that period, again Kanvas took over the reigns of Magadha. At that time, Shatavahanas taken over from the only last kings of Kanva dynasty. And Shatavahana, the Simuka, he was the founder of the Shatavahana dynasty. Actually, Shatavahanas were ruling in Maharashtra and Andhra Pradesh. They were very ambitious, and then they went up to Magadha and conquered the land up to Magadha. But it was very short-lived. Later, their empire was restricted to only South India. This is how the Shatavahana dynasty was ruling over almost South India and some parts of Magadha, almost 492 years. That's why the 826 BC to 334 BC. Thereafter, Gupta dynasty. Gupta dynasty, various inscriptions are available. We can easily fix the epoch of Gupta era because the Gupta kings used Gupta Samvat in their inscriptions. So, based on I fixed the epoch of Gupta dynasty in 334 BC. From there onwards, they reigned up to 245 years. That's why the 89 BCE is the last date for the Gupta dynasty. And Bhavishya Purana, it mentioned that Vikramaditya, he belonged to a Paramara dynasty, early Paramara dynasty, and he was born in the 3000th year, means when 3000 years have been elapsed from Kali Yuga. So we have to start from 3101 BCE. So if you minus 3000 years, 101, near to 100 or 101 BCE, Vikramaditya was born. And he became the king when he was almost 18 or 19 years old. So in the 82 BCE, he became the king of Ujjain. Or actually, his original capital was Ambavati. Later, he shifted the capital to Ujjain. and then he reigned for he lived up to 100 years. This is the statement in Bhavishya Purana. Therefore, 101 to 1 BCE, this was the lifetime of the Vikramaditya. During this period, 57 BC was the year in which Vikramaditya defeated some northern invaders. They belong to probably the Kedarites, called as Shakas also. So this is how in 57 BCE he conclusively defeated those Shakas and extended his kingdom up to Sindh and even some parts of Pakistan in modern times. So this is how Vikramaditya's timeline is the 82 BC to 1 BC. And during his reign, Navaratnas, Varahamira was the earliest, and thereafter Kalidasa, many, almost 9 great scholars were in his court. This is how Puranic chronology gets reconciled from Mahabharata War 2 till Vikramaditya, almost 3162 years of history. Then this is the reconciliation of the chronology following the Puranas and the Bhavishya Purana and even Yuga Purana, those in the stream of Puranic tradition. Now let us reconcile the chronology from Mahabharata, from Buddha Nirvana to till Vikramaditya, how the chronology unfolds in the Buddhist tradition. In Buddhist sources, especially in the there is a Ashoka Avadana and even Divya Avadana. In this text, there is a reference to Haryanka dynasty as well as Buddha Charitam. The Bimbisara, Ajatashatru, the dynasty. That dynasty was ruling over Rajagriha during Buddha's lifetime. Now, Puranas say that Shishunagas were the kings of Magadha Empire. But during that period, almost 1950, 1940 onward, Shishunagas were restricted to only Vaishali and Anga Janapada. And some parts of Magadha was conquered by the Bimbisara's father. His father name was Mahapadma, as per the Gilgit manuscripts. And Bimbisara became the king in 1925 BC. Actually, Bimbisara and Buddha were born in the same year as per the Buddhist tradition, that is 1944 BC. So the Mahapadma, the father of Bimbisara, his lifetime we can roughly fix around 1950 to 1925 BC. And Bimbisara became the king of Magadha or Rajagriha 1925 BC, and he reigned up to 52 years, 1872 BC. And Ajatashatru became the king of Rajagriha in 1872 BC. Why? Because Buddha attained Nirvana in 1864 or 1865 BC, in the 8th regnal year of Ajatashatru. So this is how we have to reconcile the chronology of Bimbisara and Ajatashatru, because Buddha's Nirvana was the 8th regnal year of King Ajatashatru. Then the Udayi succeeded Ajatashatru, Anuruddha. These regnal years have been given in Mahavansha, Deepavansha, these two historical texts of Sri Lankan tradition, Buddhist tradition. Then it comes to the Kala Ashoka. Kala Ashoka became the king of Magadha, not only Magadha, entire North India. He was the Ashoka who issued all those inscriptions. It was not the Maurya Ashoka. Actually, it is the Kala Ashoka. Entire northern tradition actually narrates about Ashoka, who became the king of Magadha exactly 100 years after Buddha Nirvana. So we have to distinguish between Kala Ashoka and Maurya Ashoka. Kala Ashoka belonged to, actually he succeeded after the Shishunaga. Then he reigned up to 28 years. Then his 10 sons, Kala Ashoka's 10 sons, actually the kingdom of Kala Ashoka has been divided into 10 parts, and 10 his sons became the kings of various. And Kashmir history written by Rajatarangini, refers to Jalauka, son of Kalashoka. He became the king of Kashmir. So this Ashoka was founded the city of Srinagar in Kashmir. So this is how the 1715 BCE, the entire this Buddhist history, because according to Buddhist sources, Nandas, Mahapadmananda is the Nanda dynasty after 1715 BC. Just few 40-50 years gap between the Puranic chronology and the Buddhist tradition. So we can say that probably after Kalashoka there may be a gap for some years. Thereafter Nandas became the, actually Nandas were they actually annexed all small kingdoms existed in the North India. Then Ashoka Maurya. Ashoka Maurya, he was the grandson of Chandragupta Maurya, and he was consecrated in the 218th year. So 218th year you have to calculate from the 1865 BC, 1765 BC, because the second Buddhist council, during that council, Theravada Buddhism was separated from the Mahasanghikas, and Theravada Buddhist, especially South Indian tradition, the text we are referring to Mahavansha, that belongs to South Indian Buddhist tradition and Theravada Buddhist tradition. So they use the epoch of 1765 BC, not 1865 BC. Actually, early text refers to Jinachakra or Buddha Dhamma instead of Buddha Nirvana. Later, they mixed up both the epochs as Buddha Nirvana. So we need to distinguish between the epoch of Buddha Nirvana and the epoch of Jinachakra or Buddha Dharma. There is a 100 years difference. This is the crucial difference to understand the short chronology and the long chronology. Why North Indian tradition talks about only 100 years for Ashoka, where the South Indian tradition is referring to 218 years after Buddha Nirvana, especially the Buddha Dharma Jinachakra, that is 1765 BC. So if we differentiate this, then we can successfully and very conclusively we can explain both the chronologies. Modern historians reject one chronology, the short chronology, and they just accept the long chronology as more authentic. But there are numerous, I think at least 99% of the North Indian tradition talks about Ashoka, who reigned only 100 years after Buddha Nirvana. So we can't reject the enormous evidence available in Buddhist sources. So that's why the second Buddhist council is very crucial, because in this council, all three Pitakas have been finalized, and the Buddhism also split into two clans. One is the Mahasanghika, second is Theravada Buddhism. Thereafter, another Vajrapani, because we have to, there are many Buddhist texts found in Gilgit. They refer to the Nirvana of Vajrapani also, because the date is very important. From the Nirvana of Vajrapani, they calculate the date of Kanishka. So we will get the Kushana king Kanishka's date only from the Nirvana of Vajrapani. So the historians do another mistake. Instead of taking the Nirvana of Vajrapani, they think that it is the date from the Nirvana of Buddha. Both are different, because Vajrapani lived 300 years after Buddha Nirvana. Actually, he attained Nirvana 300 years after Buddha Nirvana. And Kanishka became king of the entire India 400 years after the Nirvana of Vajrapani. So this is the difference between the Buddha Nirvana to Vajrapani and Vajrapani to Kanishka. And third Buddhist council took place during the reign of Maurya Ashoka. So the date is exactly 1529 BCE. So this date has been given in Mahavansha and Deepavansha Sri Lankan texts. So this is how we can reconcile the chronology, Buddhist chronology, from the Bimbisara to Kanishka. Kanishka's date can be exactly fixed, almost we can say 400 years after the Nirvana of Vajrapani. Now the Jain chronology is also very important. We have to reconcile it, because the problem is, I have explained you the chronological error in the Jain chronology. They mixed up between the Chandraguptas. A Chandragupta, the disciple of Bhadrabahu, who became Vishakhacharya, and Bhadrabahu and Chandragupta, a Vishakhacharya, both went to Shravana Belgola. So the Chandragupta, the disciple of Bhadrabahu, he was the king of Ujjain, not a king of Magadha. So Chandragupta Maurya was not the disciple of Bhadrabahu. Historians, especially the Jain historians, Hemachandra and thereafter, they mistakenly identified the Chandragupta, the disciple of Bhadrabahu, as the Chandragupta Maurya. Due to this monumental blunder, Mahavira and Buddha became contemporaries. So, a chronological error. There was a difference of 675 years between Buddha Nirvana and Mahavira Nirvana. What I did, I fixed the date of Mahavira Nirvana in 1189 BCE because the entire Jain tradition gives the date of Mahavira Nirvana 605 years before Shakaira. So I established the Shakaira epoch in 583 BCE because there were two different Shakas. Ancient Shakaira commenced in 583 BCE, whereas the later Shaka that fixed by the Indian astronomers in 78 AD, that is the Shakanta. So if we differentiate Shaka Shakanta, we can explain the 660 years errors in Indian chronology. And another problem was we have mistakenly identified the Bhadrabahu's disciple Chandragupta as Chandragupta Maurya. So due to that, what happened? Buddha's date has been brought forward by 675 years. We need to correct that. These two errors erase the 1380 years of Indian chronology. So we can successfully explain that traditional chronology is absolutely correct. Only we need to correct two errors. One error is the Shakaira and Shakanta era, that is 670 years, and the Buddha attained Nirvana at least 675 years before the Mahavira's Nirvana. So that is another 675 years. If you add it, it is almost 1380 years gap can be perfectly explained, and the traditional chronology absolutely correct. But another error by the historians, what they do, they just identify the Shrenika mentioned in Jain sources. He was the Bimbisara. In entire Jain tradition, there is no reference to Bimbisara at all. Yes, there are one or two like Bhambasara. So he was not the Bimbisara. His name was Bhambasara, and his name also Shrenika, where the Bimbisara was referred to as Shrenya, not Shrenika in Buddha Charitam. So these two individuals are not the same. The Bimbisara was the contemporary of Buddha, whereas Shrenika or Bhambasara, he was the contemporary of Mahavira. And Mahavira's son was Kunika. What historians did, again, they mistakenly identified Kunika as Ajatashatru. Ajatashatru lived during the Buddha's period, and Buddha attained Nirvana in the 8th regnal year of the Ajatashatru, not during the reign of Kunika. There is no reference of the Ajatashatru in entire Jain literature. So it is another mistaken identity. The historians, what they did, the blunder in identifying the Kunika as Ajatashatru. Why? Because they just placed Buddha and Mahavira in the same timeline. Due to that, they have no other option to identify Kunika as Ajatashatru. Now, Mahavira attained Nirvana in 1189 BC, almost we can say the 13th or 14th year of Kunika. Mahavira attained Nirvana. Then Udayi, the Kunika's son, Udayi became the king of Magadha, and he reigned for a very few years. And you can see these kings are were reigned over Magadha when the Magadha empire was in decline. So small kingdoms existed. So the Shrenika, they were I don't know what was the dynasty of this Shrenika Kunika, but they were controlling the area between Vaishali and Rajagriha because the Kunika was ruling over Champa as per the Jain tradition. Then they talk about another very, very important point is Nanda Raja's ascension in 60 years after Mahavira Nirvana. So now it's a very biggest problem. The modern historians consider Nanda Raja as Mahapadmananda. If he was Mahapadmananda, then there is a serious error. The chronology. If you have to fix, if Mahavira and Buddha were contemporaries, and Mahapadmananda became the king of Magadha 60 years after Mahavira Nirvana, then you have to fix Nanda's reign only just 70, 80 years after Buddha Nirvana. But actually, that's not true. As per the Buddhist tradition, almost 150 years after Buddha Nirvana. It can't be 60, 70 years after Mahavira Nirvana. So, this is the chronological error. Actually, the Nanda Raja mentioned in Jain tradition was just a barber, means he belonged to a barber family, and he was selected by the ministers of Udayi because Udayi died without any successors. He had no sons at all. So this was the reason why Nanda Raja, a great soldier in Udayi's army, so the ministers of Udayi selected Nanda Raja as the king of Magadha. During Nanda Raja's time, Kushanas almost extended their kingdom up to Magadha. Probably Nanda paid tribute to the Kushanas. So somehow the Nanda could survive for some few years. Thereafter, there is no reference to Magadha Empire in entire Jain tradition. He was the last king for them. They suddenly switch over to Ujjain. Why? Because now the Kushanas were Buddhists, so they were more promoting the Buddhism, Huvishka and others. So that's why they shifted to the Bhadrabahu. He went to Ujjain. So Jains mostly from Mathura to Ujjain. So that's why the Jain historians refer to the kings of Ujjain after Nandas. So they say that Palaka kings reigned for almost 130 some years from Mahavira Nirvana to there. Then thereafter Vishaya kings. Thereafter Chandragupta. He was the Vishakhacharya. He became the king. So he belonged to that Vishaya. Then Simhasena. Chandragupta's son was Simhasena. Simhasena's son was Bhaskara. Bhaskara's son was Samprati. Then Shaka Murundas reigned over a particular period. So I fixed the chronology of Shaka Murundas considering the Jain chronology. So this is how, and you can easily see the genealogy of Chandragupta given in Jain tradition does not match with the genealogy of Chandragupta given in Puranas. So naturally, both are different. Actually, the Jain chronology is talking about some different chronology. We should not mix up with the Buddhist and the Puranic chronology given during the period of Buddha, because actually the Mahavira lived at least 600 years later Buddha's lifetime. So therefore, this is how we can reconcile Shakamurundas. Thereafter, Pushpamitra, Agnimitra. These were some kings of Bharu, actually in Gujarat. Then the Gardabhilla. He founded his kingdom and he reigned up to 13 years in 736-723 BCE. Then Shakas reigned for 4 years. Here an interesting incident took place during the reign of Gardabhilla. The Jain monk Kalakacharya was living near Ujjain, and Gardabhilla abducted the sister of Kalakacharya. Kalakacharya went to Gardabhilla and pleaded that you should release my sister, but Gardabhilla didn't listen. Then the Kalakacharya said that I have to take a revenge. So he crossed the Indus River, then met with the Shaka warriors there, and he brought 96 Shaka warriors to Ujjain. And those 96 Shaka warriors, they defeated Gardabhilla and became the kings of Ujjain. But the people of Ujjain were fed up with the Shakas. They were Mlecha kings. How can they have Shakas as the kings of Ujjain? Then finally, the Gardabhilla's son Vikramaditya, he was the Vikramaditya one. We have to differentiate between these two Vikramaδιtyas. The Vikramaditya, who just after 4 years reign of Shaka, who defeated them and drove them away from Ujjain, and the Vikramaditya II, who lived in the 57 BC, both were different, because the Vikramaditya II, Vikramaditya of 1st century BC, he belonged to Paramara dynasty, where Vikramaditya, mentioned in Jain sources, he belonged to the Gardhava dynasty. So this is the totally two different kings. So he became the king in 719 BC, and he introduced the epoch of the first Vikramaditya era, known as Malava Samvat, Krita era, and also Malava Gana era. So this difference we have to understand. The Vikramaditya mentioned in Jain sources and the Vikramaditya mentioned in Puranas were two different entities. So this is the Jain chronology. This is how we can reconcile all three chronologies: the chronology in Puranas, Buddhist sources, and Jain chronology, and everything gets reconciled. We have to place Buddha and Mahavira at least 675 years. There was a gap of 675 years. After these three chronologies, what we need to do now, we need to reconcile the Kashmir chronology. This chronology has been given by Kalhana. He was a great historian. He compiled the chronological history of Kashmir in his magnum, you can say his great treatise called Rajatarangini. Rajatarangini gave the history of entire Kashmir. It starts from Gonanda dynasty to up to his lifetime when Kalhana was there. But we need to understand the Shakaira mentioned by Kalhana. He referred to the Shakaira of 583 BC, not 78 AD. The biggest problem is historians consider 78 AD as the Shakaira. Therefore, they say that Kalhana refers to epoch of Mahabharata or somewhere 2449 BC. Actually, that's incorrect, because Kalhana refers to Jarasandha, and Jarasandha was the actually relative of Gonanda. So Gonanda and Jarasandha both invade the Mathura. So this can't be we cannot have a different dates for the Mahabharata mentioned in Puranas and the Kashmir tradition. So the date given in Kashmir tradition, actually it is 32nd century BC only, but it has been mistakenly assumed since the Shakaira, because Kalhana says that he is giving his the year in which he wrote the Rajatarangini in Shakaira. So the historians assume that Shakaira, the epoch of Shakaira in 78 AD, and fix the time. What we should do, we must come with the chronology with the 3162 BC. I have already explained the Mahabharata war. Then thereafter, the Gonanda, then Damodara, and this is the almost. There are some 30. The names of almost 35 kings. He says that lost because he could not find any sources to find out those names. Then he comes to up to Ashoka, because this Ashoka, he became the king of Kashmir, and he founded the city of Srinagar, and also his son Jaloka became the king of Ujjain. So Kashmir. So what we need to do, we have to first fix the Ashoka's chronology as per the Puranic Buddhist tradition. In the Buddhist tradition, the Kala Ashoka's timeline is 1765 to 1737 BC. So what we should do, we have to place all those 47 kings before 1765 BC. This is how I reconcile the chronology. Then Jaloka's timeline is given in Buddhist sources because he ruled for 22 years. Thereafter Damodara. Then there is a reference in Rajatarangini. Hushka, Jushka, Kanishka, these three were the Turushka kings. So we have to differentiate the Kanishka mentioned in Rajatarangini was not the Kushana Kanishka. He was the Turushka Kanishka. Actually, the Turkish, the Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan, he may belong to that area, but he became Buddhist and he almost reigned over Kashmir for few. And the date of this Kanishka has been given in Rajatarangini, that this Turushka Kanishka reigned over Kashmir 150 years after Buddha Nirvana. Now Buddha Nirvana we have established based on a Burmese inscriptions and various other traditions, that 1864 BCE. And you just add 150 years, it comes around 1665 BC. So 1715 BC, 1715 to 60, I took around 50 years for these three kings, Pushka, Jushka, Kanishka. And one interesting fact is there, the reference to the Kanishkapura, because this Hushka founded a city, Hushkapura, Jushkapura, Kanishkapura. And Kanishkapura city existed before the Kushana Kanishka itself. And the Abhimanyu. This is how this chronology up to Mauryan era. But one more error in the chronology in the Kashmir, because the same Kalhana, he mentions in Rajatarangini that I have reconciled almost 10, 12 literary sources related to Kashmir history, and then I have corrected the chronology. Actually, there was some errors in the chronology. He was trying to correct it. But there are one minor error in his dating of, when he dates about this Utpalaksha. This Utpalaksha succeeded Abhimanyu as per the Rajatarangini's dating. If we refer to the Vishakha Datta's Mudra Rakshasam, there is a shloka that this Utpalaksha, he calls him as a Pushkaraksha. Utpala and Pushkara both means lotus. So a person having the eyes like a lotus, that fellow is called Utpalaksha or Pushkaraksha. So Kashmiraha Pushkaraksha. So exactly the king of Kashmir, Kashmir king's name has been given in Mudra Rakshasa, who was the contemporary of Chandragupta Maurya. So based on that, I have fixed the date of Utpalaksha's timeline, because these to be reconciled with the external sources also. Whenever we are doing the chronological studies, it has to be multidisciplinary, as well as we must reconcile with the external sources also. If we are not reconciling it, then we may land up in error, because during that time, the Rajatarangini's author, Kalhana, he struggled a lot, and somehow he arranged the chronology of the Kashmir. So he knew only the tradition of Kashmir at that time. Since we have the various sources today, we can reconcile, and minor corrections have to be done to reconcile the chronology. So this is how the Kashmir chronology up to Utpalaksha, because these two are very, very important. We have to fix the date of Pushka Jushka Kanishka, who reigned over Kashmir 150 years after Buddha Nirvana. Then we have to fix the Utpalaksha's date, because he was the contemporary of Chandragupta Maurya. So this is how we need to correct some chronology in the Rajatarangini, whatever the timeline has been given. But later we can reconcile it. The Kalhana did one mistake, because there is in Puranas like Matsya Purana and one or two Puranas, they refer to a dating of Nandas just 1050 years or 1100 years after Buddha Nirvana. So there is a gap of 300 to 400 years chronological error. This is the reason it appears that the Kalhana followed that 1100 or 1050 years from Mahabharata to Mahapadmananda. Due to this chronological error, he could not reconcile almost 300 years. Then what is that? He just assigns 300 years for only one king named Ranaditya. So it means he was struggling to reconcile the chronology. It is impossible for a one king or one person to reign over 300 years. This is the reason why modern historians reject the Rajatarangini's chronology. They just refer to the Ashoka, and then they just delete the list of kings given in Kashmir, and somehow they establish the very suddenly they land up with the dating of Lalitaditya, Muktapida. But there is a long tradition of kings. It's only the 300 years error is due to just considering the Mahapadma just 1100 years after Mahabharata. Actually, Mahapadma has to be dated 1500 years after Buddha Nirvana. If we fix it, then Kashmir chronology, there is an error of 300 years. So this is the reason why I generally insist that we must follow the regnal periods of the dynasties given in Puranas instead of the statements where it is given that Panchashat. Actually, it appears that Panchashata became Panchashat. In Sanskrit, Panchashata means 500, Panchashat means 50. So, in a probably a scribal error, it appears that Panchashata became Panchashat in Puranas, one or two Puranas. But the regnal periods, if we reconcile, then we will certainly able to reconcile the chronology from Kashmir also. So this is how we can reconcile the entire all chronological information available in India. That is the Puranas, the Buddhist sources, Jains, and the Kashmir source. Now we have to go out of India because the Buddha Nirvana epoch was used by even Sri Lankans and Burmese. In a Sri Lankan chronology, they refer to the epoch of Buddha Dhamma Jinachakra, and they started 1765 BC because they were the followers of Theravada Buddhism, and Theravada Buddhism used the epoch of 1765 BC, 100 years after Buddha Nirvana. So that is the epoch of Second Buddhist Council. So Devanam Piyatissa, he was the contemporary of Ashoka because during his reign, Maurya Ashoka's son and daughter Mahindra and Sanghamitra, they both landed in Sri Lanka. This is how the Buddhism, the history of Sri Lankan Buddhism begins from the Devanam Piyatissa. This is how we can reconcile the chronology of Sri Lankan history also. That is the Buddha Nirvana, epoch of Theravada Buddhism, then Mahinda, and as per the tradition, he was born in the 204th year after 1765 BC. So Mahinda was born in 1561 BC. Then Ashoka's coronation in the 218th year, that 1547 BC. Then Mahinda and Sanghamitra visited Sri Lanka, and the coronation of Devanampiya took place to 236 year, exactly 1529. This was the year in which Mahindra and Sanghamitra both landed in Sri Lanka. And in the same year, Devanampiya Tissa, he became the king of Sri Lanka. Now we should reconcile the Burmese chronology. In the Burmese chronology, there is a text called Shasana Vansha. The way we have the Mahavansha and Deepavansha text in the Sri Lankan tradition, there is a text called Shasana Vansha in the Burmese history. It refers to King Aniruddha. He ascended the throne in the year of Jinachakra, that is 1561, and he is also referring to Shakaira of 371. Now this Shakaira we have to start from 583 BCE, not from the 78 AD. And the Kalyani inscription, there is a interestingly, this inscription has been found in Burma as well as in Sri Lanka. This is the same inscription has been found in both the places. So the Aniruddha brought a community of Buddhist priests in the years 1601 Jinachakra and the Shakaraj era, that is 490. So from 583 BC, 419 Shakaira is 164 BC. This is how we can fix the date of Aniruddha in the 2nd century BC. What modern historians do, they simply reject this word Shakaraj. They come out with another epoch of Burmese era in 638 AD. But why Burmese era? If it has nothing to do with the Shakaira, why they refer it to Burmese era in Shakaira? Actually, they are referring to Indian era, not the Burmese era. So we need to understand that this is the distortion has been done by the modern historians. They just distorted the Shakaraj word as a Burmese era. This is the Burmese kings introduced, but why he is naming it Shakaraj, they never explain. So this is the chronological error committed by the historians. Actually, the Aniruddha has to be dated around 212 BCE, and Anuvrata, his son, 160 to 137 BCE, then Tribhuvanaditya, then Rajakumara, then Narapati Jayasura. Then there is another inscription, like Kalyani inscription, is the Hansavati Nagara. It refers to some Ramadhipati. His he was reigning around 237 282 BCE in AD. So these dates we can reconcile considering the Shaka era, that is 583 BC onwards. So actually, the problem of 1380 years, not only the Buddha Nirvana date has been brought forward 1864 BC to 483 BCE, moreover, the almost similar amount of history in the ancient history of ancient Burma has also been erased by the modern historians. That's why they brought forward the time of Aniruddha in the 11th century AD instead of 2nd, 3rd century BC. And these are the actually Burmese lost a long history. The Burma also have the history since the Dwapara Yuga of India. Actually, Burma was actually an extended East Bengal, and as well as the various dynasties were ruling from Vedic era onwards. So Burma was part of Indian culture since Vedic era. And this is how there is another Burmese tradition. They refer to our traditional calendar of Kapilavastu, that is called Kautsa era. This is the one I thought I just Sanskritized this as a Kautsa. Probably Kautsa became Kausda. And this era was based on 5-year Yuga cycle of Rigvedic era. And it is mentioned in the tradition of Burma that this calendar was actually was invoked since 10,652 BCE. What they have mentioned that this era was invoked for 8,640 years. Now, these are the traditional evidences which suggest that Indian civilization is at least even beyond 10,000 BCE, because a calendar in Burma or Kapilavastu, those they were following traditionally before Buddhism, the calendar remained in vogue for 8,640 years. Now archaeologists can't go there and dig anywhere, and they find, then they reject it, but nothing has been found wherever they have done the excavations. But this is the very established traditional evidence. So what I did, I just based on the Buddha Nirvana, I fixed the epoch of the switchover, because this was based on Magha Shukla Pratipada to Chaitra Shukla Pratipada. So that's why they selected the 24th February 2011 BC. That was the Saturday. So this is, they called it the Edzana era. This was the Chaitra Shukla Pratipada Sunday. And this era was introduced by Edzana, grandfather of Gautama Buddha. This has been mentioned in Burmese sources. So, and Buddha was born 68th year of Edzana era. So, as per my dating, Buddha was born in 1944 BCE. So, you have to only add 68 years to fix the new Burmese calendar introduced after this Kautsa era and the Edzana era. This is how we can reconcile, and this goes to the almost at the end of Rigvedic period. This is the 10,652 BC. And there, I have already discussed about this manuscript of Vinaya Pitaka, that the dotted manuscript. Actually, the Upali, he marked first dot in the manuscript of Vinaya Pitaka. The Buddhists also followed kind of a Chaturmasya every year. So that's why this is the, and only the fixing of the chronology is the only key. There is a chronological error of 660. It's even in the Chinese chronology. So the date is fixing of the Sanghabhadra's date, because he visited the city of Canton and he put the 975th dot in that manuscript in China. So this is around 880. We need to fix. The modern historians say actually the identification of the Wuti and Yingming of Qin dynasty. So the modern historians just identify a particular one king who reigned around 482 493 AD. Why? Because they just have to calculate 975 years starting from 480 or 486 BC onwards. So this is actually, they just distorted the name. As per my research, actually the King Yinzing of the Qin dynasty, actually the king during his time, he integrated the entire China, and the terracotta army has been found in China. He was the first person who took the title of Wuti and or Huangti, and he reigned around 907 to 881 BCE as per the chronology corrected by me. So during his timeline, his reign, Sangabhadra visited Canton city and he put the dot 975. There is no manuscript as available, only a reference of such manuscript are available in the Chinese Buddhist sources. So we have to take it. So this is how we can fix the Vasubandhu and Sangabhadra, because Sangabhadra was almost contemporary of Vasubandhu. And Sangabhadra even debated with the one person who was the father of Bhartrihari, or his uncle of Bhartrihari. There is another issue whether how many Buddhas existed, 24 or 28. Actually, this Buddhavansha gives many names, but it is extremely difficult to give any timeline. But probably many a philosophical tradition existed even before Gautama Buddha. So that's why the Mahayana tradition goes back to 28 Buddhas. Actually, as per my research, it appears that since Jains have the 24 Tirthankaras, initially a 24 Buddha concept came into. Then the Puranas talk about 28 Vyasas. Every Dwapara Yuga Vyasa will be born. So similar on that concept, they have given the names. But actually, there are some historical names here. We can only fix the last seven Buddhas. Actually, the Pitaka, Sutra Pitaka, Vinaya Pitaka refer to those Buddhas. So that's why it's only the, and probably all are historical, but their timeline is how to fix the chronology. It's a big question because nothing is available. Just names have been given in the Buddhavansha that gives the history of 28 Buddhas. So Vipashi, Shikhi, Vishwabhu, Krakuchanda, Kanakamuni, Kashyapa, and Gautama Buddha. These were the 7 Buddhas have been mentioned in the earliest Buddhist sources. And Kanakamuni's reference is available in Nigali Sagar inscription of Ashoka. So based on that, we can clearly say that these were the historical, and they may also be historical, but their timeline is it's difficult to, because no information is available presently. So this is how, and Buddha was born in Ikshvaku dynasty. The Ikshvaku dynasty's tradition start from Vaidikira. So Vaidikira, Ikshvaku was the son of Vaivasvata Manu. So Vaivasvata Manu's timeline I have given 11,200 around. So this is how the chronology, and then we can reconcile the chronology of entire Ikshvaku dynasty. And from Mahabharata era, we have already discussed the Ramayana period. So this is how the chronology. So finally, the entire chronology of the Buddha, we can say that we can, the absolute dating of Buddha is very much important to reconcile the chronology of India, not only the India, as well as the Sri Lanka, Burma, even Tibet. I have not discussed here because that's a more complex subject, because we have to discuss the Chinese chronology also if we want to discuss the Tibet. So this is how entire chronology of India from Mahabharata to Vikramaditya has been reconciled, considering the dating of Gautama Buddha as the sheet anchor and the date of Mahabharata. This is how I have explained the chronology, how the almost 3,200 years of history can be reconciled based on the Puranas, Jains, and the Buddhist sources. And as well as we can reconcile the Sri Lanka and Burmese sources also. And this gives very good insights. Yes, we may have to correct certain errors. During those times also, like today we are struggling to reconcile the chronology, and somewhere 2-3 people may differ with the dates, and similar problem existed earlier also, because in the chronology maintaining, because our India is very ancient, having the thousands of years of history, it is humanly not possible to maintain an accurate chronological data for thousands of years. But still enough data is available for reconciling the every year, the chronology for every year starting from Mahabharata, we can correct the chronology. Yes, there may be some errors, we need to perfect it, but at least I tried my best to ensure that all sources, whatever the information is, the maximum we should reconcile. With that objective, and as well as we have to reconcile the or corroborate the most strong evidences. So the strong evidence for the Buddha's date is it is the inscription evidence, the difference of Shaka era and the Buddha Nirvana era given in Buddhist and Sri Lankan sources, as well as the reconciling it with the Puranic chronology. So this is how Indian chronology unfolds from Mahabharata to Vikramaditya. Thank you.
Vedveer I purposely did not speak in the middle
Yes.
because you were in the flow and I didn't want to interrupt you. But
Yeah.
I have like for people who have doubtful and people
Yes.
generally they do not want the Hindus to do the chronology because they want to impose their own ideas on
Yes.
Vedic culture or Hindus. So for those people, Buddha is gradually they don't focus on Buddha at all.
Yes.
So is that a conspiracy? Because if the Buddha is established, then automatically the entire Western chronology falls apart.
Yeah, that's true. Because the Buddha's date is actually that links the entire world chronology with India, and as well as the arrival of the Indo-Greek kings in the Afghanistan. These
Correct.
two are very important. Why? Because the Ashoka refers to the Yavana kings in his inscriptions. So Indian chronology cannot be corrected without reconciling the Indian chronology with the world chronology. The main issue is why Puranas don't talk about the same kings given in Buddhist sources, because Puranas or the traditional they only focus the kings related to Surya dynasty and the Chandra dynasty. They generally avoid those Vratya Kshatriyas. Vratya means those sons of Kshatriyas, but they were not born to the Kshatriya mother. So generally they avoid it. Probably this Bimbisara, their other all Vratya Kshatriyas, though they belong to a particular Kshatriya dynasties also. So that's why Puranas only maintains the chronology of those directly those kings who are direct descendants of the Surya dynasty and the lunar dynasty. When they saw after even they don't give much about the Guptas, it's only available in Kali Yuga Raja Vrittanta. Up to Shatavahanas, they come out. Thereafter, they just say that now entire Indian empire has been disintegrated. So many kings, so many kingdoms came into existence. This is the statement in the Puranas. Then they start with the Vikramaditya in Bhavishya Purana. Actually, Bhavishya Purana takes forward. It is actually giving whatever the status of the political situation at that time.
I think there can be another reason also, because when the Buddha avatar came, it's a Vishnu avatar, according to Purana. So they don't want to disrespect his desire, because he wanted to stop the animal killing, and therefore he rejected Veda, because people were misusing Veda to kill animals unnecessarily. And so just to respect Vishnu's desire also, they did not do that. Can be a reason.
Yes, actually Buddha philosophy was not as per the traditional philosophies. So therefore there was some kind of a conflict, or we can say friction, between the philosophies. And due to that, certainly the Buddhists, they challenged the Sankhya philosopher initially. Later Advaitas, they actually reformed the philosophical arguments, and then they successfully countered the Buddhist philosophy. Due to this strong, I think almost 1,000 years of Vada and Prativada, due to that the animosity became so much that even some political, like during the Pushyamitra Shunga's time, there is a reference in the Buddhists as the Pushyamitra ordered to kill many Buddhists. Actually, these Buddhists used to support Yavanas, because before Pushyamitra Shunga, Yavanas invaded during the time of Shali Shuka. He was, I think, last king of Maurya. So Yavanas used to, and Yavanas, even Mahabhashya, Patanjali mentions up to Saketa, and even he is mentioning the Chittod area also, Madhyamika. So they invaded up to that and they destroyed these cities. It is mentioned in Mahabhashya. it was Pushyamitra who contained these Indo-Greeks, their invasions into India. And then that time the Buddhists politically they supported the Yavanas because they were the Buddhists. So this friction created thereafter actually divided us. Otherwise, India had many schools of philosophies. They never had any kind of violent or any. It's only one or two incidents, not the many, but not that kind of animosity between the schools of philosophy that took place during that time, because it's we can't say right now what happened during those times. Even today, the Buddhists don't want to accept that he was the avatar of Buddha, or even they don't want to accept that Buddha was a descendant of Ikshvaku dynasty. They wanted us to call us him only Bhagavan Buddha. Though that's okay. It is he was the Bhagavan Buddha, but as per Indian tradition, he belonged to our ancient Indian dynasty, the same dynasty in which Sri Rama was born. So he was the avatar of Vishnu for us.
Buddhists can say whatever they want, but since we are doing it from the Vedic point of view, then definitely he's avatar of Vishnu, and Jayadev Goswami has accepted it. Then it is for us. It is important to
but
call
one
him.
Great thing happened. It's not just the other issue. The Buddhist philosopher, they just challenge the status quo in our Indian philosophy. Mm-hmm. So due to that, what happened? Indian philosophies actually they started rechurning of entire thing, and this is the reason why Sankhya Karika, and so many commentaries, even Nyaya to Navya Nyaya, even the dualism to Advaitavada, the kind of a philosophical transformation. It's a tremendous, the way Indian philosophy evolved during the Buddhist period. It's amazing.
Adi Shankaracharya is responsible of finishing Buddhism from India, because he is the one who brought it in a big way.
No, it's not. Buddhism always existed, and Indian traditions also existed. It's only certainly some kings have, even there are numerous inscriptions. Same king is donating the land and various other things to the Brahmanas, Vedic tradition as well as Buddhism also. So both coexisted. It's only the Muslim invasion they killed. Otherwise, the entire Bihar and the Bengal, it was flourishing. The Buddhism was flourishing. It's only Muslim invasion destroyed. It's not anything we have done.
It is very surprising that Pakistan and Afghanistan accept Buddhism to one of the religions from that area, but they deny Hinduism because they think that Hinduism was not where. Everybody knows that Pakistan was a Hindu country, and Afghanistan also, very recent past, but they don't recognize it. But in fact, Buddhism spread the most from Takshila, which is in Gilgit-Baltistan today. So thank you for this exciting one. I have lots of questions, but the show has gone very long, and probably we can do another show on talking the same topic, but we'll have some more questions from me all the day.
Question answers. Yes.
So thank you all viewers for watching, and do subscribe. There is a playlist based on 3162 BC by Sri Ved Viraryaji. So you can always watch all his videos in one shot. Binge watching you can do there. And let us know your feedback. Namaskar.
Thank you. Namaskar.